What's cooking, Juventus fans? Welcome back to your ladies' favorite YouTube channel. Today, let's focus in on the center back position. We already know that Juventus have definitely been honing in on the center back overall, what options they could go after and who they could be getting. We're talking about to replace Chiellini, but now we're talking about who could they replace with Matthijs de Ligt should he depart, as well as some other of the latest rumblings when it comes to Mercado moves for Juve. Stick with us. We'll fill you in. Ciao ragazzi, welcome back to the Bianconeri Zone. My name is Justin Sofro. Today, it is Wednesday, June 29th, 2022, and of course I got your latest rundown of all things Juventus, all the news you hear about each and every day. Before we get into it though, make sure you smash that like button, hit the heck out of it right now guys. You're really helping our channel, please help it to grow. We're almost to 3,000 subscribers as well, so make sure you smash that subscribe button as well. I think we're about 30 some odd new people from joining our community to hitting that 3K mark. We're excited about it. It means so much to see the channel continue to thrive and grow as it has throughout the last year that we've been doing this, so we appreciate you guys. Also hit that bell icon to stay notified for all of our latest videos. Now, without further ado, let's get into it for you guys. All right, the very first news story of the day is we're actually talking about an old name, a new name, a young name, but an old name that Juventus may be back in the hunt for. And that's talking about Bremer from Torino. Tuttosport have a report saying that in the talks between Torino and Juve for Mandragora, the name of Bremer has come up. The Brazilian has had an agreement with Inter for some time, but the Nerazzurri have not been able to close the deal. The Bianconeri could be able to use Mandragora in this negotiation. Let's say this. For people saying, I doubt or I don't think that Mandragora unlocks the situation. No, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. But if you could take it down a shekel or two, I might as well throw him in there. Juventus are already trying to move on from him. I'm surprised because I thought I had heard reports that basically Juventus and Fiorentina had come to an agreement for Mandragora's services, but maybe it's not all completed. Maybe there's still some other issues to work out there. Regardless, if you can end up using him and you can get Bremer in, especially should Matthijs de Ligt leave, or if you're just getting him to add alongside Matthijs de Ligt, hell yeah, sign me up for it. The only thing I would say right now, though, is definitely keep an eye on what's going on with Inter, if they can end up signing him in the end, because he had that first arrangement with them, and Juventus came on late, and I just don't know how he prioritizes the two. It appears he prioritizes Inter over Juve, but that could also be associated with Torino and the issues going on with Torino and how they do not like to sell to Juventus, if we know anything. But maybe it would be appealing to him to stay in the same city. All right, continuing on to this, we have Calcio Mercato, who are reporting talking about the situation, saying that as early as January, Juventus had already tried to see what scope there might be between Bremer and Inter. While waiting for moves of Matthijs de Ligt, the Bianconeri are also on the Brazilian defender. As far as the Nerazzurri are concerned, however, the sale of Skriniar would not automatically lead to Bremer, but it would be a big help. So obviously we know with a lot of the different moves that Inter, because you got to give, I don't want to say credit, but if you have to give them a little bit credit, Inter have been very active in the Mercado, landing Romelu Lukaku back to their staff, maybe potentially leaving Paulo Dybala out in the cold. I have to enjoy that. Cut me some slack. I'm petty. I'm a petty man. That's all I can say when it comes to Dybala. But anyway, the situation that continues to develop with Inter, how that drags out, what can go on there. Will Bremer be an option that resurfaces, and maybe those ties that he has to the Nerazzurri are a little bit looser than they originally were looking like, and now Torino wanting Mandragora back while also having to make a sale here can end up opening up to Juventus. I think this would be a fantastic option. Of course, if you're going to get the Serie A Defender of the Year last season to come to Juve, I'm all the way here for it. Especially if Matthijs de Ligt does end up staying, and then you have the two of them together for next season, maybe that changes Matthijs de Ligt's idea and preference of staying at Juventus and staying with Allegri. Maybe it doesn't, and then you can be better suited to find a suitable replacement next season to go along with it. Something to keep an eye on. This is going to be a big story that I hope continues to develop. If not, I'll be a little bit disappointed, to be honest. Let's continue on, though. Talk about other defender options Juventus could be looking for. And Gazette dello Sport's actually talking about the hot name that we've had here on the channel all over the place. If you're on Twitter at all, you have to be under a rock not to hear this, but is that of Koulibaly. Basically, Gazette dello Sport's trying to urinate on everything, saying that the feeling is that Koulibaly will not join Juventus out of respect for Napoli. This is something that I had questioned, that I had wondered. I mentioned it before. Would he leave him? There's been, the thought out there that he wouldn't. But at the same time, money talks. So you back the Brinks truck up. You don't have to go crazy over here. But you pay him a good payday. You bring him to the club. He has to move on. He has to make a living. We'll see what happens with Chelsea. Maybe the reason is that this feeling is starting to grow, that he's going to say that he's not going to Juve out of respect for Napoli. It could be because that Chelsea are coming out here saying that they want to go after him since Matthijs de Ligt is too expensive. They end up bringing him in. He can look like the good guy while still leaving Napoli, and all things work out in the end. Going off of that, we have the second part of that, which is Dario Pellegrini, who's commenting on the situation with Koulibaly. He says today, round of phone calls on Koulibaly, De Laurentiis had already lowered his initial demands. The Senegalese seems to have shown his willingness to transfer to Juventus. The Bianconeri are well aware of what the player's request is, but the priority in the negotiation is that with ADL. It will not be as easy, but it's not impossible as it seemed weeks ago. So it's a little bit of positive news to go with your negative news from Gazzetta dello Sport. Dario comes in and basically just saying that Juventus is not dead in this. They're not out of this this potential wooing, if you will, the courtship with Koulibaly. But you have to find some kind of an agreement with that of De Laurentiis. I've always been kind of on the outs. Like I think the option to get Koulibaly would be fantastic. But I also have always said that I doubt that Juventus and De Laurentiis can come away with an agreement, and that De Laurentiis is going to be anything other than a swamp man, which is what he is. Something to keep an eye on. We'll see how that develops. We'll keep you updated every step of the way. But talking about the main man who's really has so much, I want to say power in this, but it's the main hand that needs to be played, is that of Matthijs de Ligt. And basically, Gazzetta dello Sport updating what the situation is with him right now. Basically saying that Juve and him are far apart right now. The signals from de Ligt and his agent have been clear. Bring down the clause to 80 million euros, with Juve not agreeing to it at the moment. The Juventus told clubs they will need to pay the 120 million euros release clause this summer. And I think Juventus are in every right, and they're in their right mind, and they're being smart by saying, bleep you, pay this amount of money. Because especially if he's not willing right now to come down and come to an agreement to a renewal without dropping it to anything ridiculous. I think Juventus, the 80 million it's serviceable, but it's, again, I'd prefer 90. Some of Juve are getting a good payday with it, but I understand the 80 million, he's going to leave. So we'll see how long this drags out, especially if he has other options that he's preferring to go to. And right now, for all intents and purposes, the way that he's been negotiating with this, and I also understand he's usually in the Raiola group, so they're going to be pulling, they're not pulling their punches when it comes to this. They handle things in a I don't want to say crass manner, but you know what I mean. They are not afraid to be like, we're moving him and we're trying to do this, and it's not always going to be what's good for Juventus. Though in the past, Raiola and Juventus have had good relationships. We'll see how this develops. If not, if you can keep him for another year, if you get a guy like Bremer, somebody else who's a good, I want to say top tier, but a really, really good center back alongside him, or with to pair with Matthijs de Ligt for this upcoming season, and then you move to next season and get the other guy to replace him. That way Juventus are not on the cold trying to replace two center backs, which I think, just looking at the Mercado, looking at the things right now, the options out there, I think it's just kind of a daydream to even say that Juve are going to go get two center backs this Mercado. I don't think it's happening. I think they're really focusing, they're hauling all that in on the offensive firepower. When you talk about, obviously bringing in Pogba to help create some stuff, bringing in potentially, or it's not potentially, they're bringing Di Maria in, and then potentially bringing in Zaniolo as well, and then there's rumors of Kostic too. We'll see how this continues to develop. We'll keep you updated every step of the way, but for now, let's see what happens. All right, next up, let's talk about Big Z, my boy. As a Zaniolo hole, this is what I like to talk about. Tudo Sports reporting to saying that the first meeting went well. Now another meeting is scheduled between today and tomorrow. Juve and Roma both want to accelerate for the deal for Zaniolo. Roma has lowered their financial demands, and the Bianconeri could open up to the opportunity to use Fagioli as an option. Allegri would like to bring Fagioli to the training camp, but Pinto likes the former Cremonese player and is more interested in him than the other names that are on the table so far. That of Moise Kean, Archer, and of course Weston McKennie. This is an interesting development for me personally. If you were to tell me, so they're not interested in bringing in Rovella, or Roma are not interested in bringing in Rovella. This opens up some opportunities because I've kind of sat on this where I've had this feeling, and from things that I've heard, that it just kind of appears that Juventus overall, they don't value Fagioli as a lot of the fan base does. And they don't think Fagioli is going to be that long-term guy. He's done some solid things. He's done some really good things helping get Cremonese to a promotion. But it still has felt like for a bit that Juventus are just not really sold on him as an option to bring back to the club and keep at the club. Manetti, they're all in on. It seems like Manetti, as I reported, I guess it was earlier today's video, saying it's not happening with Manetti. Back up. Manetti is staying with Juventus, but what happens with Rovella and Fagioli? Which one ends up winning out? Just what? I think it's two, not just one right now. So I think one of them will be end up coming to Juventus. If they end up using the Fagioli in this deal, he goes to Roma. I know some people will be disheartened to see that, and I know some people will think Juventus are making a huge mistake, and they will, and maybe I am proven wrong in the end, and maybe in the end we look at it and he balls out. He just balls out at Roma under Mourinho. We'll see, but nothing that I've seen during the time that I've watched him play that really has overly stuck out to me as a player. And I'm not trying to disparage him or say anything negative about Fagioli, but I think Fagioli could be a solid option if, and just to be clear, if you're not able to use Moise Kean or Arthur in this kind of sale. The reason I say that, Moise Kean obviously will want to get him moved along, as long as it's not a deal that's bringing Paredes to the club with the trade from PSG. I'm okay with it. We look at Arthur. Archer is a player that definitely is not fitting in Allegri's system. It's not going to fit at Juventus long term. That'd be a good option if you could trade them. And then Weston McKennie's the one guy who I'd be willing to let go, but I think really, if I'm being honest, he would be the last one. I would dig my nails into him as long as I could, especially if you have other options out there that you could really do a deal with their club for. So yeah, I'd put Weston McKennie over Fagioli to keep at the club. So something to keep an eye on. We'll see how that continues to develop. Some really interesting pieces there. How will Mourinho do? We've seen them make some pretty decent Mercado moves. You've seen Roma already go after Fratesi and the situation going on with them. That's a pretty good get from them. Obviously, he was a youth product of Roma, and then he ends up coming back. That's one of those players that I really kind of, I think Alejandro on the channel also kind of agrees with me, but I think that if I were Juventus and you're going to bring in a secondary midfielder, I would have gone after him, especially if it doesn't look like you're going to bring in Raspadori. You're not going to do any other deals with Sassuolo this Mercado. It wouldn't have been a bad one to do, and it seems like they're getting him for a very affordable price. But this is not the Roma zone. This is the Bianconeri zone, so we'll talk about back on Bianconeri zone stuff. All right. Let's talk about the last bit of the news today, and a name that I brought up earlier in the show is that of Kostic, the situation that continues to develop with him. Corriere dello Sport reporting saying that the difference between Juve and Eintracht Frankfurt for Kostic is about 5 million euros. The parties are working to find a common ground, with the Bianconeri more and more convinced about the deal, especially after realizing that Morata isn't likely to return to Turin. This is one that I don't want to say it surprises me. This is one that is a situation that, as it develops, it's making more sense, especially given the reports. I think it was this morning. It was this morning's video. I recorded it, I think, last night, but it's this morning that it came out, talking about Morata basically choosing to stay at Atletico Madrid. Is it really his choice? We'll see. But he's staying at Atletico Madrid more than likely. So then Juventus will end up probably bringing in another attacker. So you're bringing in Di Maria, who effectively is replacing Dybala. You're bringing in potentially Zaniolo, who's just a nice little fun piece that Juventus really want to have and that I think can be something solid long term. And then also bringing in potentially now Kostic to replace what you're losing in Morata. Could be some decent options. Could definitely open up some things for not Morata. Sorry, nothing's opened up for him. Opening up some things for Vlahovic in the long term. That could be a really nice development there for the attack. So we'll see how that goes. And really, when I read this and I see that the difference between Frankfurt for Kostic and Juve is 5 million euros, I'm like, okay, is there really distance there, or is it just one of those excuses for Juve to kind of push off this negotiation and let this one drag out for a little bit longer? And I kind of tend to lean toward that's what's going on here, is that Juve are using their time and using whatever to say, oh, well, there's negotiations going on, but it's really because you're not a priority right now, my guy. We have other Mercado priorities that we're really trying to fill those needs, and then we can come back to you at the end of this because we know that you don't really have a lot of other options that are really more appealing than Juventus. and we'll let you know what we decide in the end. Anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the news. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on the center back position? Do you think De Ligt needs to go in this Mercado? Do you think that Bremer should be that top guy, or Koulibaly? Or do you think there's another center back that Juventus really need to start pushing for and really look at right now? Let us know in the comment section down below, as well as the Zaniolo, Kostic, all that good stuff. Anyway, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you follow Bianconeri Zone at Bianconeri Zone, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Follow me at Justin Sovero on Twitter. And of course, hit that like button, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to stay updated with all of our latest videos. I'll see you guys next time. Forza Juve, Forza Bianconeri.